Kareem Rae here. Today we have Mr. Martin Blackburn, who's the Director of Special Projects at Arena Americas here in America. Martin, how's it going?
It's going well. Pleased to meet you, and I appreciate you inviting me onto your podcast. This is actually my first podcast I've ever done, so thank you.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to have you on. It's very exciting. This is a new space for me, learning more about pop-up stadiums, or as I learned last week on the call, was temporary structures. So can you just, share a little bit of your background of, how you got involved into this space?
Or into the space. So it's a 30-year space. I'll try and keep this high level. So after my wasted education, I went into mainstream construction. I was mentored and coached by some wonderful people back in my hometown of Newbury in Berkshire. I was channeled into kind of carpentry and joinery, and spent many years, working in the local construction market. And then there was a bit of a recession going on in the kind of late 80s, early 90s in the UK, and I played rugby with a guy who owned a temporary seating business called Arena Seating. Actually, it was called Arena Promotional Facilities. And so his name was Jonathan Smith. In fact, his brother, Terry Smith, is still involved in the business in the UK. And so he was looking for someone to join the business, and construction was down. Events didn't seem to be, as affected as it was in the mainstream construction. So I jumped out of mainstream construction and got into the temporary construction. So temporary bleachers, temporary demountable structures. And that's how my career in this space was launched, was having a beer with a rugby buddy at the rugby club.
Got it. And so is Arena Seating's not the same company as Arena? Are they two separate companies?
So Arena, the group. So Arena Group is a global company. It was born by the Smith family 40, 50 years ago. And then the business just got bigger. So it got sold a couple of times, and the owners acquired businesses globally. So we have presence, of course, in the UK, Arena Americas. We have big presence in the Middle East, in Dubai, Doha. We have presence in the Far East. So we're a global company, and the Arena Seating portion is still part of the group.
Understood. And you've specifically focused on projects here in the US?
I do, yes. I've lived here now in the US for 10 years. I rejoined Arena. I used to work for Arena back in the UK 30 years ago. Did I think 15, 16 years. Had a break from Arena, did some global stuff with some Swiss company, did some Winter Olympics, Summer Olympics. And then came back to Arena just recently. So yes, I mainly concentrate on just the key projects here in the US.
Nice. What's the biggest project that you oversee?
Oh, me personally. So I mean, at the moment, I'm more doing the business development side of things. So it would be more into looking further out into soccer World Cups, for example. We've been engaged in kind of communication with the Cricket World Cup people. Cricket World Cup, or the 2020 World Cup's coming to the US in 2024. So they've started to think about their temporary structures and how they can enhance their clubs.
Understood.
So physically overseeing, I mean, we have the Grand Prix down in Miami. That's a huge piece of business for us. We also do the Formula One Grand Prix in Austin. So big pockets of work, and then in terms of big contracts that we do for the PGA Tour and in the golf, we're very big in the golf world. So we're involved in the annual US Open Golf. Every time there's a Ryder Cup here, we're involved in a Ryder Cup. So, recognizable events and projects.
Understood. What are three challenges, or maybe just one challenge that you faced, working with Arena, that you were like, wow, I never thought we would have came across this challenge, but we got through it.
I would say that on a daily basis we are faced with challenges. Yeah, I think if you're talking from a business perspective, we have I always like to refer to the iceberg principle. When you see an iceberg below the waterline is huge, and then above the waterline is just a little kind of ice that's popped up, and you can apply that to many areas in life. And I always like to look at our operation. So if you think about all the stuff that's below the waterline, you've got all the operations, you've got wonderful people doing the freight and the logistics and the labor planning and the scheduling and the pure design of the structure. So you've got all of that stuff below the waterline, and then above the waterline I put customer. And so he doesn't necessarily, or sorry, she doesn't necessarily see what goes on below. All they know is that they've ordered a structure or a temporary seating structure, and they just want it delivered. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but I always like to refer. That's one of my favorite iceberg principles. Is one of my favorite things I always refer to when I get asked that question.
Understood. So, from my understanding, it's sounding that a customer that's interested in investing into the company and hiring you guys to, bring a pop-up stadium or a temporary structure for their club, per se. Let's focus on soccer. That they just come to you to Arena, and they say this is what we want, and you guys just make sure you guys do your part and provide that product and service in regards of temporary structure, and they don't have to worry about anything else. Correct?
That in terms of the physical purchase or the rental of the structure, absolutely not. I mean, there might be some permitting issues. Not issues. There might be some permitting challenges, perhaps, and generally Arena wouldn't get involved in permitting. We would provide everything for the customer to take to the permitting people. But yeah, to answer your question, we, as a business, we pride ourselves on developing, designing, revenue generating environments for you, a customer, right? Could be 5,000 seater stadium with some hospitality environments. So we have a dedicated team that kind of get to that point. And the whole pop up, you keep mentioning the pop up thing as kind of a new. It's a kind of a new word or words for me, pop up, and but it's true. It is as we call it temporary structures or temporary infrastructures, but actually pop up stadiums describes it wonderfully well, because if you as a customer purchased a structure or some seating blocks, by the sheer the sheer nature of the description, pop up means that it can pop back down again, right? So if you have a change in ownership of the land lease that you have, or you fall out with your landlord, the structures that we can provide a club or a customer, we can just take the structure down. We literally put on the back of trucks, and we take it to a new place, new location, and we can pop it back up again. And so when you as a customer are investing in an asset like that, it's an asset. It's an asset forever.
Yes, of course. And you mentioned that there's an option to rent, which is amazing too, if it makes financial sense, the structure of it. And then, the second part to that is actually ownership, owning this pop-up stadium, as I say. But I also I also use temporary structure that I learned from you, Martin. So yeah, that's amazing. And when I learned about pop-up stadiums, I thought it was very exciting. And to see Phoenix Rising in USO Championship, doing this, or Inter Miami, David Beckham, with their stadium doing this, it made so much sense. And then you mentioned you got Formula One or the Olympics. They're doing these things as well, which makes complete sense because they're there temporarily.
Yes,
It allows them to move. Do you see this, moving the next 4 years? We're leading towards the World Cup in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Do you see this being, pop-up stadiums being more in use now? More owners coming to leading towards pop-up stadiums, or is it still they want to build their own?
So it's a mixture of both. So I think what Arena does quite well is we provide that interim. So so the interim period, if a club needs 5,000 seats, if they need 10,000 seats for their short-term vision, meaning their long-term vision is to build a permanent facility, maybe 3 or 5 years down the line, we present them with an option to either buy or to rent it from us. While they get the funding. I'm guessing that some of these stadiums are costing, I don't know, $50-60 million. A customer can come to us, and for a fraction of that, they could purchase that asset. And if they really wanted to have that as a legacy program, meaning, maybe they could leave the structure there. We could demount it and bring it to their new environment. So as we get closer to the Cricket World Cups and also the Rugby World Cup, by the way, is here in 2031. So it's I think it's very exciting for the franchise world in soccer and cricket and rugby. And we are here to support all of that. And I do see clubs who don't have that 50, 60, $70 million to build a concrete environment. We as I say, at a fraction of the cost we can design and develop.
Understood. And can you just give us like a number range between stadium wise of $1 million to 5 million? Can you give us just like a number?
Well, we have a lot of inquiries for the kind of the 5,000 seater stadium. It seems to be kind of maybe 5,000 to 6,000 seat kind of temporary demountable stadiums, semi-permanent structures. With some hospitality environments. And to give you a range, so it can go anywhere from 2 million to 2 to 3 million. Let's just say for a 5,000 seater pop-up stadium. And again, or 10,000 seater stadium, you could be up to $4 to $5 million. I hate doing
Ballpark numbers.
figures on a podcast.
Yeah, I just want to give the viewers just like a perspective, just in case any owners that come across this interview and they never know about pop-up stadiums, or they're maybe learning more. It'd be good to have a ballpark number in their head. And in regards to taking down the stadium, there's a cost to that as well, which would be the labor. What does that usually range around as well?
The labor portion.
Yeah,
the labor portion.
Taking transporting.
The freight and the labor portion is always the largest amount, right? But if you've got 5,000 seats and you wanted to just demount them and take them to the next location, it represents probably 10 to 15% of the whole contract value, I would say. Just on the labor side, maybe a little bit more. Maybe you could be creeping up to 20%, particularly these days. And freight's horrible right now, as every business owner knows. The freight is just ridiculous. We are pulling material. We're based in Milwaukee. We have a Houston base and a Milwaukee base where our seating product is located, and we are pulling material freighting material from Milwaukee to Las Vegas, for example, and it's like $7,500 just for one truck, and that is crazy. But it's the world we live in right now, I guess.
And I can imagine there's maybe 10 trucks, even more, transporting.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
We're doing hundreds of these things. Yeah.
Wow. And, I guess leading towards the last thing,
What one of the things that club owners should think about is for sure permitting, and as a company, we navigate the customer through that process, meaning we represent all the engineering and the design. But if you have an open piece of land, let's just Phoenix Rising. What's triggered this is you mentioned Phoenix Rising, and they've actually just, I think last year just moved, or maybe 2 years ago, just before COVID. That they moved locations, but the point here is that their first location was literally in the middle of nowhere, and they had to pull all of the services, water, electric, from the road. So that's a huge cost to maybe the landowner. I don't know, but certainly someone has to invest in bringing that infrastructure in. You think about all the power that you need for the lights, etc. Obviously, you need fresh water. So that's something else that that owners should think about.
and that's when owners are looking to purchase land. They need to think and consider about these things for the stadium.
Yeah, but if purchase or lease. Phoenix Rising just leased their land, I think, on a 5-year deal, and I don't actually recall who foot the bill for pulling all those services in, but I remember it happening, and I remember it being quite the operation. Yeah.
So how long do those things usually take?
So Phoenix was fast track. I mean, we literally had that stadium built, ready to go in 3 months. It was incredible.
Wow.
It was a great team effort. Fantastic customer to work with. They just got stuff done. They engaged with the local authorities to, just to get stuff done, because it was exciting for the local community to have a USL team in Phoenix.
Yeah. In regards of like water and electricity and light, they got all that stuff up within that time frame, or?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was incredible. Yeah. They had a construction company who kept everybody safe and kept everybody honest, and it was there was not one accident on the not even sometimes you have a crushed finger, and it becomes a big issue because it becomes a recordable if you have time off of work in safety terms. But it was an incredible effort from the construction company, down to people putting up the lights, to us.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. That's great. With saying that, Martin, was there anything else that you wanted to include to the podcast or add in?
No, I just, I have my entry into football, not playing it. Well, I played it at school, of course, because all kids in England play their football, soccer at school level. I went into rugby, but in my business, my first business experience, let's just say, was back in '98, when I was asked by my then boss. His name was Joe O'Neill. He said, "Hey Martin, we've got this inquiry from Stevenage Borough. They've been drawn in the 4th round of the FA Cup, and they want to play at their stadium in Stevenage." So in those days, Kareem, Kenny Dalglish was the manager of Newcastle, and Alan Shearer was the captain, and I got a little bit starstruck. Like, yep, I'm going to go and service this inquiry. I'm going to go meet all these people, and it was a wonderful kind of entry into like how sports can work from a political perspective, from a kind of a fun perspective. And there's a wily old guy that used to own Stevenage, a guy called Victor Green, and he was teasing Newcastle United that he wouldn't mind playing on the Hackney Marshes. And so anyway, the long and short of it is, that was a stadium that was a 5,000 seater stadium that needed to go to 8,000, and so we serviced the inquiry. We put the stadium up, and all the temporary seats up, sorry, to get it to an 8,000 seater stadium. And Stevenage Borough, their playing budget at the time was £30,000. Newcastle's playing budget at the time was 15 million. Right? so there were 73 teams, right, or 73, teams or clubs, right, but apart. You think about that, and they actually drew 1-1,
Yeah. Wow.
which is incredible. And of course, we have this thing in England called the giant killers, and so Stevenage Borough were like labelled as the giant killers. And then when you have a draw, then you automatically have to go to the opposite team's home where they lost 2-1. So but incredible story, and I love being involved in that. I don't know, the whole kind of playing with the media and playing with this huge team, with this $15 million budget for players against this kind of underdog, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that. I loved all that.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I mean, you got two different budgets, and you expect the club with the bigger budget to win and destroy the other team, but that wasn't the case. And it's always good to see the underdogs at least compete and at least tie with the big dogs. I appreciate Martin, you being on the podcast. I know this was your first one, so it's awesome. I think you did great.
Thank you.
I have 6 fun questions that I want to end off here. So, who's your favorite? What's your favorite sport?
Oh, so rugby.
Your favorite rugby team.
My favorite rugby team. So my favorite rugby team is England, of course, but at club level, it's probably Gloucester.
So I don't know anything about rugby, so I wouldn't know the team. I do know Arsenal, though. I do know Arsenal.
I know. Yeah.
Favorite player? I mean, Arsenal player. Favorite Arsenal player?
My favorite Arsenal player. They won at the weekend, right? They 3-0.
I didn't.
They won 3-0 against Bournemouth.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't watch that game.
My favorite Arsenal player, who could that be? Whoops. I don't know.
Favorite food?
My favorite food is a Spanish dish. It's paella. Paella.
And the last one, who's your favorite artist musically?
I would say that it's an old band, the Eagles. They just seem to be timeless.
The Eagles?
The Eagles.
The Eagles. I'll check it out after.
Yeah. It's just an old 70s band that just has timeless music. I don't know. I have some kind of affection towards them. I met Glenn Fry once, and that's when you get starstruck when you meet someone like Glenn Fry. God bless him. So that was in my music days, traveling around the country back in England, putting up temporary seats for those concerts.
Yeah,
it's fun.